Well, hello again and welcome from Rapid Ralph, along with Karen the GPS unit and the Lieutenant Colonel shock and awe on four-wheel drive. This is trip 22 to the Davy Crockett birthplace up near Limestone, Tennessee. I had to go to Chuckey, Tennessee, which is named after the Nolichucky River and not necessarily the character in the horror movies. And that's up near Greenville in the mountains of East Tennessee, and that's pretty close to the Davy Crockett birthplace, actually about 4 miles. And I'd never been there, so I thought not only would I go, but I would film the trip and let you guys ride along. Colonel David Stern Crockett, August 17th, 1786 through March 6, 1836, was a celebrated 19th century American folk hero, frontiersman, soldier, and politician, usually referred to as Davy Crockett and by the popular title, King of the Wild Frontier. Now, those of you who grew up in the 1950s like I did, remember Davy Crockett. There was quite a craze that came along, and a popular song, a TV series starring Fess Parker, coonskin caps, and a lot of other stuff would be showing you. This trip starts in Chuckey, Tennessee, and as I said, it's 4 miles over to the Davy Crockett Birthplace State Park. This is my setup in the Lieutenant Colonel. You can see I have a high-definition camera mounted between the seats, and that's how we're able to film these trips and have them look good. For those of you of a technical bent, the shotgun mics used when I take the camera out of the car actually have a small conference room type mic laying in the back seat to pick up the engine noise and give us the ambience as we travel through the Tennessee countryside here. This show was filmed on March the 6th, 2008, a Thursday, and it's about 2 o'clock in the afternoon now as we continue. The Davy Crockett Birthplace State Park is a Tennessee state park, and it's located at the confluence of the Nolichucky River and Limestone Creek in Greene County, Tennessee. It's a 105-acre park dedicated to the memory of one of our state's and nation's most famous individuals. Going back to the 1950s again, there were all sorts of neat stuff available: books, lunch boxes, and especially that coonskin cap that all us kids wanted. If your parents had enough money, you definitely got one of these. Unfortunately, I didn't, but I did have some of the comic books. I wish I still did. And that would definitely be worth some money these days. This memorabilia is at the museum at the Davy Crockett Birthplace State Park, which we'll be arriving at momentarily. But I thought you'd like an advance preview of some of the neat stuff there. Again, there's a museum which is dedicated to Crockett and a replica cabin of the type David Crockett would have lived in during the late 18th century, and a monument to Crockett containing stones donated from each of the United States, all 50 states. And although small, again, it's only 105 acres, as we turn on to Davy Crockett Park Road, and we'll be on this for a couple miles until we get up to the park. 1-lane asphalt road, but I didn't meet anybody, so I didn't have to worry about getting over. Getting back to what I was saying about the park, even though it's small, it contains a wonderful diversity of natural settings. I'm reading this from, oh, look at that. Now that's nice scenery. I'm reading the description of the park from a brochure I picked up at the park. And it provides a wonderful diversity of natural settings ranging from forested limestone bluffs to meadows and tree-lined streams, all providing exceptional bird and other wildlife viewing opportunity. Didn't see any wildlife while I was there, not even a bird, but anyway. I would like to go back during the later in the spring and in the summer. I'm sure there'll be a lot of action going on. And continuing from the brochure, here's the historic significance of David Crockett. Born in 1786, he epitomizes the strength and character vital to our nation's westward expansion during the pioneer era. With virtually no formal education, he rose from the depths of poverty to national fame in a seat in the United States Congress. He served 3 terms, by the way, and his son also served in Congress. His fame and popularity during his life was celebrated in books and plays. His death at the Alamo in 1836 marked the beginning of his legend. Davy Crockett Birthplace State Park is dedicated to the memory of this exceptional figure in our nation's history. Some good stuff. Of course, there's other things you can do at the park besides think about Davy Crockett. They have camping, 88 improved sites consisting of 40 full hookup sites with water, sewer, and electric. 30 sites with water and electrical hookups, and 18 tent sites. So you can come up and camp and just have a good time. It's, as you can see, it's an extremely beautiful area of Tennessee, here in the very eastern part of Tennessee, in the Blue Ridge Mountains. And they allow fishing. The Nolichucky River, which runs through the park and on one edge of it in places, has fishing opportunities for a number of freshwater species. Smallmouth bass and catfish are popular catches. They do require a state fishing license. Don't mess with the wardens, and the game wardens in Tennessee get your license. And of course there's hiking also. Approximately 2.5 miles of trails range from easy to moderate, providing beautiful views and ample opportunities for wildlife and wildflower viewing. And of course there is the museum, as we've already talked about. The Davy Crockett Birthplace Museum contains items common to life on the eastern frontier, as well as portraits and documents relating to Davy Crockett. A short video provides information about Crockett's life. Hours are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Weekend hours vary depending on the season. They have a number of planned programs. The Crockett Day celebration is held in August, which celebrates the pioneer lifestyle and features living history exhibitions and reenactors in period dress from the late 18th century as we enter the actual park itself. And a seasonal interpretive ranger provides programs during the summer season. Programs range from nature activities to historical and cultural interpretive programs. I missed all that because I came during the week and it's early March, and that's the Nolichucky River on the right, by the way. And there wasn't a whole lot going on. But I still enjoyed myself tremendously. You can see that I'm having trouble finding a parking place. And there were quite a few rangers or people around here, but they're all leaving, I guess. Actually, it's about 2 o'clock. I don't know where they were going. But I pretty well had the park to myself, except for 2 or 3 other people and one ranger. This is the sign in front of the Visitor Center. Davy Crockett Birthplace and Historic Site. Again, this is a Tennessee State Park, albeit one of the smaller ones. And a very, very nice place, well kept up. This is inside the museum. Historical documents and photographs and illustrations of Davy Crockett. A guest book, which I signed. Was glad to do it. The museum is small, but there's a lot of neat stuff in it. So it's worth taking some time to look through. There's a little model of the log cabin that's a replica of the log cabin he may have been born in. There's a lot of things I haven't nailed down about where Davy Crockett was actually born, but they think he was born very close to here. That's a bear skin, perhaps the bear that he killed when he was only 3, according to the popular song. And an exhibit about the legend of Davy Crockett, the yellow flower of the forest, as they called him. And that was from back in his day. So he was quite famous when he was alive, and of course became a legend when he died at the Alamo with Jim Boy and Colonel William Travis and the other heroes in the Texas War for Independence. Okay, I'm leaving the parking lot at the museum and driving over to the replica cabin. There's the Nolichucky River right out in front there. You can't see it at the moment. You can see a little bit of it now. And as I said, there were only a couple other people here with their walking their dogs. You can see where they're parked there. And that's the cabin ahead of us. So I decided to just park and get my camera out and the tripod and set up the video camera and do a little talking for you from in front of the cabin, which I did, and which you're going to see almost immediately here. That's the sign pointing to the cabin, and the guy walking his dogs, coonskin cap on him, and with that beard, and he'd look the part. Okay, here we go. Well, hello, I'm Ralph Roberts here at the Davy Crockett Birthplace in Limestone, Tennessee. This is near the place where, at least where Davy was born. Famous frontiersman, died at the Alamo during the Texas War for Independence. And behind me, this is a Tennessee State Park, behind me is a reproduction of the cabin that Davy Crockett was born in. Now, those of you of a certain age, like I am, who grew up during the 1950s, remember the Davy Crockett craze. Walt Disney made a TV series about him, starring Fess Parker, I believe. And on the school bus going to and from school, we all sang Davy Crockett, the song, King of the Wild Frontier. Born on a mountaintop in Tennessee, greenest land in the state of the free. Killed a bear when he was only 3. So we remember Davy Crockett, and a lot of us who could afford it, unfortunately I wasn't one, had coonskin caps, a famous cap that Davy Crockett immortalized, or the Davy Crockett craze immortalized, and I'd still like to have one. So if any of you out there have a Davy Crockett cap, coonskin cap, and want to send it to me, hey, I appreciate it. So we're going to look around a little bit more and see what else we can see here at the Davy Crockett Birthplace. It's actually a small state park. This is on a Thursday morning. There's hardly anyone here. In fact, there's only one couple with that have a couple of dogs. Other than that, I'm by myself, and I've seen one park ranger, and I waved to her. So not a lot going on. We're right next to the river. And let me just pan around and show you a little bit more of what the place looks like. Directly across from the cabin and over that small fence is a picnic area. There's some tables and things over to the left of here. And beyond that, of course, the Nolichucky River. This is a monument to Colonel Crockett. And the wall that's in the circle around the monument contains a stone from every state in the Union. This is the cabin itself. Of course, this is a reproduction of the type of cabin that was used in the late 18th century in this area, and like Davy Crockett may have been both born in and lived in for the first part of his life. We're looking inside the cabin, now. I'm actually shooting this through and grating over the door. You just can't walk in and walk around. And there's bed and the steps up to the loft of the cabin. And this is the way a cabin would have looked in the 18th century, minus the electric light up there. Well, imagine, if you will, what this place looked like in the early 1800s, 1820s or so, when Davy Crockett was growing up. Of course, he went on to become a member of Congress for several terms, and then eventually, tiring of civilization here in the East, he moved on west and eventually wound up in Texas, where he volunteered to fight at the Alamo with Colonel James Travis and Jim Bowie, who invented the Bowie knife. And that's one of the ways that he went into legend, although he was very much a legend even before he went to Texas. He was just one of the icons of the frontier. A lot of movies have been made about the Alamo, including one by John Wayne. So it's well documented, his place in history. But he spent most of his life here in Tennessee, in East Tennessee in the mountains. As I said, we're in Limestone, Tennessee here, but I'd say Limestone Bluff across the river. But Limestone is just outside of Greenville, Tennessee. Another famous person from Greenville, Tennessee, and is President Andrew Johnson, who was vice president when Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, and then was elected to a term as president on his own. It's one of only two of our presidents who have been impeached, the other being more recently a certain William Jefferson Clinton. Both Clinton and Johnson managed to get out of the impeachment. Johnson had his revenge later on by being elected to the U.S. Senate. The only other president I know of who took office after he was president in the Congress was, I believe, John Quincy Adams served in the House of Representatives. And getting back to Davy Crockett, he served 2 terms in Washington, was defeated, served another term, and then he was running for re-election. And he said if he wasn't elected, he was going to move west, and he certainly did. Davy Crockett had a son, by the way, who also became a congressman shortly thereafter and served at least 1 or 2 terms in Washington. Crockett has a connection with Asheville. He married Elizabeth Patton, who's one of the famous Patton families of Asheville. The Pattons were one of the first settlers in the late 1700s, the late 18th century. They were the ones who helped found Asheville and settled out from Swannanoa and then started moving west through Buncombe County. So we have that connection with Davy Crockett. And I just wanted to take you on a visit here to this historic and significant site. So remember, Davy Crockett killed a bar when he was only 3, king of the wild frontier. I won't sing the song. Besides, it's copyright and I shouldn't anyway. Okay. So after a very enjoyable visit to Davy Crockett's birthplace, State Park, I pack up my camera, load up the Lieutenant Colonel, ask Karen which way to go, and head on out of the park. I say I head on out of the park. Why am I sitting here? Okay, now we're going. Okay. And I punch my destination to Karen. In this case, it's home. Although I have an hour and a half drive to get to home from here, still a goodly distance. I have to get on over to Irwin, Tennessee. That's 30 miles or so, and then it's another 60 approximately from there to my home in Alexander. And we come up past the recreation area, and now we exit the park. And we continue on out on Davy Crockett Park Road, except we're going the other way than we did when we came in. So it's on back to Asheville and into Alexander and home.